You stupid fool. Did you really think you gonna hit me? Huh? Bam, bam, bam! Over.
And my last question, Shannon Sharp. A lot of people, they comparing you to Shannon Sharp. I also want to ask you, what do you think about his approach on these serious situations that's plaguing us right now with all lives, black lives, all of that, and just comparing you to him?
Shannon Sharp is a Hall of Fame tight end, one of the greatest football players to have ever played the game, an intelligent brother, a good brother who is my friend. He is not me, and I am not him. Just like I wasn't a tight end playing football in the National Football League, he hasn't been a journalist in newspaper, radio, and television for the past 24 years. He got his style, his flavor, I got mine. I wish him nothing but the best, but I'm focused on doing me.
Shannon Sharp, he said if we really want to make change, we need a white athlete to take a stand. You agree with that or disagree with that?
So, but when it's really going to get some momentum, Skip, it's going to take somebody that's your complexion.
That's correct.
To take up this stance. Mm-hmm. That's when we're going to be on to something. Because, see, we've moved past now. We know it's not about the flag. We know it's not about the military. We know it's not about the veterans. It's about the issues that started Colin Kaepernick down this path to begin with.
It would be nice, but I'm not sure you need it. I'd like to have it, but you don't need it. One of the things that we have to respect is this. White folks ain't black. Yeah, you can sit up there and not, perform acts of hatred, prejudice, racism, violence, whatever, against different segments of our populace. And it would help to be sensitive and remember that during the Civil Rights era, we would have never propelled ourselves to the heights that we propelled ourselves with if it were not for the assistance of white folks, some conscientious white folks along the way. But in order to provoke and spark them to do that, we have to be careful about crying about racism every chance we get. Because when we mention the word racism and we're looking at white people, they're thinking we're talking about all of them, not that we're talking about some of them. So we got to make sure that we highlight intelligently, look, we're talking about some and the way you act, not all.
Or just the ones that's committing the crimes and getting away with it as well.
That's what I'm saying. You're talking about that. We got to make sure we do better, because if you bark into somebody's face and telling them they ain't shit, how incentivized do you think that's going to make them to help you? It's just common sense sometimes. It's just the way it is. And now people will look at me and they'll say, well, who the hell is he to say something like that? Well, our very own president was talking about Black Lives Matter, acknowledged that he supported them, but also encouraged them to listen. And don't just protest everywhere. You got to a point where you saw them protesting the Republican candidates and the Democratic candidates. Well, here was the problem. Ain't one of them gonna be president? So don't you need to take a side? Because you're gonna need somebody. If you alienate both, where's that gonna get you? It's just a question. It's the kind of thing that we have to be mindful of. Because a lot of times I support causes, but I'm sitting there going like this, that ain't the way to handle it. That ain't gonna get it done. And when you get older, you ain't in to futility. You ain't into doing something that pays no dividends. It's gotta show that there's something at the end of the tunnel. You can't just be barking to be barking. You can't just be venting to be venting. It's about getting it done. And are you doing that? That's what we need to ask ourselves. And we're a resolute people, man. We strong, we're special. God made us, we're one of a kind. But at the same time, sometimes that friction, that stress gets to us to the point where all other voices here, all other people here is noise coming from us. They hear problems all the time. It's not solutions. And it's just the approach in corporate America. And I learned this a long time ago. Never go to a boss with just your problems. If you don't have solutions, leave the boss alone. Because they ain't gonna like you. Because no boss just wants to hear problems.
Accountability is a solution though, right?
No, it's not a solution. Accountability is highlighting the problem and giving you a conduit as to where the solution lies. But it ain't a solution. The solution is the actual act of solving a problem. You have to bring a solution to people. You have to be fixated on that. Because if you don't, nobody's going to want to hear you. No matter how right you are. Black people ain't wrong. Everything we say, how we've been victimized as a nation of people for decades, if not centuries, is right. We are not wrong. The problem is that how are you going to tell somebody who's white, hypothetically speaking, that was born in 1970, that they responsible for slavery? How are you going to do that? Listen, how are you going to do that? How do you expect that white person to listen?
But that's not what the people are saying. That's how they perceive it, though.
I'm not saying that's what they're saying, but your message is all about whether or not it's received. It's not about what you want to say. It's about what you want to be heard. And if you know you speaking to somebody that ain't gonna hear you, then it should come upon you to speak in a fashion where they will hear you. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit up there and say, this is the way it is, and this is the way it is, and it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. Bam, and that's it. It doesn't work that way. In the field of communication, we are taught, pay attention to your audience. Make sure you know how they hear something. That's how you reach them. Not by you just spewing. It's by talking in a way that makes sure your audience hears you. That is your responsibility as a communicator. And if you don't feel that way, shut the hell up. Mm-hmm. Because that means you're just talking for yourself. You ain't talking to be heard. You talking to vent. No, you're supposed to be talking to be heard. So you gotta think about your audience. You gotta think about how they're gonna receive what you're saying and say, okay, how can I best get this message across to them where they're gonna hear it, inhale it, grasp it, and do the kind of thing they need to do. That's what it's all about.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing.